Sir, you need to step away from the building right now.
Before we begin tonight's investigation, I want to take a moment to thank the people who make investigations like this possible. To every Historic Capital member who supports this channel month after month, thank you. And to everyone who supports our work through Buy Me a Coffee, thank you as well. Your support pays for the research, the documents, the archives, the verification, and the countless hours it takes to follow a story all the way to the evidence. But there is something even more important. Our members don't just support the investigations, they help decide what we investigate. Tonight's investigation began with a question from one of our Historic Capital members. Who really owns Lagos? It sounds like a simple question. It isn't. Because when you start pulling on the thread of land ownership in Lagos, you don't just find property deeds and receipts. You find colonial treaties. You find royal families. You find military decrees. You find government gazettes. You find billions of naira changing hands. And eventually, you find yourself asking a much bigger question. Who actually has the legal power to decide who gets to own a piece of Lagos? So tonight, we are going to follow the paperwork. We are going to follow the history, and we are going to follow the money. If you want to become part of these investigations, consider joining the Historic Capital membership. Members can also suggest questions, cases, and stories they want us to investigate next. And if you want to support the research without becoming a member, you can support Historic Capital through Buy Me a Coffee. Because the next investigation could begin with your question. Now, let's begin. In February of this year, a widow in Lagos stood in the dust and watched a yellow excavator eat a 30 million naira house. Her late husband's entire pension was mixed into the cement of those walls. She had a lawyer. She had a registered survey. She had a court process already running to protect her property. The community head had looked her directly in the face and promised her that nothing would happen. Then 100 heavily armed, uniformed men arrived with the yellow machines. There was no court order presented. There was no demolition notice pasted on her wall. The operators did not speak to her. They just dropped the mechanical arm, and in 20 minutes, 20 years of a family's sacrifice collapsed into broken blocks and twisted iron. How can this happen? That should not be mathematically or legally possible. If she had the documents, if she paid the family, if she paid the government, who has the absolute power to crush a citizen's life savings in broad daylight? The machine wanted the public to see it. They wanted the fear to spread, and they expected you to forget it by Friday. But we do not forget. We investigate. Tonight, we ask one impossible question. Who actually owns Lagos? The story of that widow is not an isolated tragedy. It is a business model. We saw the exact same story in Otodobame. We saw it in Makoko. We saw it in Mende. We saw it in an estate in Sangotedo, where bulldozers arrived while court cases were still actively open on the judge's desk. Entire communities, some settled since the 1920s, holding government-issued papers, wiped out in a single afternoon. This is the central, terrifying contradiction of Lagos real estate. You can buy the exact same plot of land 3 different times. You buy it once from a local family. You buy it again from an agent. You pay a 3rd time to the state government. 3 receipts, 3 official stamps, 1 plot of land. And despite paying 3 times, at any moment, the state can declare your papers completely invalid. Buyers have a name for the families who sell this land, onile, the children of the land. We say it like a joke, we make comedy skits about them. But look at the words again, children of the land. That is not street slang, that is a legal, historical ownership claim. And every ownership claim, no matter how old, has paperwork somewhere. Because power never operates in a vacuum. Power hides behind paperwork. To understand why Nigerians are suffering, why men are having strokes and heart attacks watching their houses fall, we are not going to look at the bricks. We are going to put the historical evidence on the table. The paper trail of this extortion begins with a gun. Let us examine the very first land document in the history of Lagos. It is called the Treaty of Cession. It was signed in August 1861. It was signed by King Dosumu of Lagos. But look at the context of how this document was signed. British warships were sitting in the Lagos harbour with their heavy cannons loaded and pointed directly at the heart of the city. King Dosumu was handed this treaty by the British and given a choice that was not a choice. Sign the paper or the city burns. He signed it. Every single land document, every survey, every title in Lagos today is built on top of that 1861 signature. But let us be clear, a man with a gun to his head is not a willing seller. He is a hostage. And the paper a hostage signs is not a legal contract. It is a receipt for something that has been violently stolen. From that morning in 1861, the British Empire believed it owned the ground, all of it. But the indigenous families of Lagos believed something entirely different. They believed a king could not sign away what was never his to give. Under ancient Lagos custom, land did not belong to the crown. It belonged to the families, held in trust by the Idejo, the land-owning white-cap chiefs. For 60 years, these two conflicting beliefs lived side by side, until the British tried to take more land in Apapa to build a port. In 1921, this contradiction finally went to court. Look at the historical records from the Privy Council in London. At that time, it was the highest Supreme Court in the entire British Empire. A Lagos chief named Amodu Tijani, holding the title of the Oluwa of Lagos, did the unthinkable. He traveled to London. He sued the colonial government over the land taken in Apapa. He fought the British Empire using their own legal system. The British judges read the 1861 treaty. They read the local customs. And the colonizers' own Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Nigerian chief. The court declared that the 1861 treaty only transferred political and administrative control of Lagos to the British. It did not transfer the ownership of the soil. The soil still legally belonged to the families. The families won. That 1921 ruling never disappeared. It was never overturned. That specific court document is the exact reason why, 100 years later, royal families can stand on a multi-million-dollar plot in Lekki and say, "This is ours to sell." But if the families won the absolute right to the soil in 1921, how can a government bulldozer legally crush your house today? Because the government wrote a new document, and this document is the source of your pain. Look at the Land Use Act. It was signed on March 29, 1978, by the military government of General Olusegun Obasanjo. Read Section 1 of the Act. The law explicitly states that all land comprised in the territory of each state in the Federation is vested in the governor of that state. It is held in trust for the people. Vested. One single word. With one stroke of a military pen, the 1921 court victory was turned upside down. The wealth of the families was technically nationalized. Let me be brutally honest with you. Since that morning in 1978, nobody in Nigeria buys land. Legally, you are buying a right to occupy it. You are buying a 99-year tenancy from the governor. You are a tenant of the state, holding a certificate of occupancy. The contradiction is perfectly written into the law. The 1921 court document says the families own it. The 1978 military decree says the governor owns it. But the military government could not simply erase the families. The families hold the history. They hold the ancestral boundaries, and they hold the local power on the streets. So the government created a bridge between these two truths. It is called excision. This is the most dangerous, weaponized word in Nigerian real estate. Excision means the state acquires a massive area of land on paper and then, out of mercy, releases a small portion back to the original indigenous families. When the state releases this land, they publish the exact geographical coordinates in a government document called the Official Gazette. This is where the trap closes on you. If you buy a piece of land from a family and that exact GPS coordinate is printed inside the Official Gazette, your sale is theoretically valid. But if you buy a piece of land from a family and it sits even 1 inch outside the Gazette, you are legally trespassing on government property. The family will look you in the eye. They will swear on their ancestors. They will take your 30 million naira. They will give you a beautifully stamped receipt. But in the eyes of the law, you just bought stolen goods. Real estate agents will lie to you. They will sell you a plot and tell you, do not worry, the land is under global excision. The Gazette is processing. That is a scam. Processing means nothing in a court of law. It is either gazetted or it is government land. And they are counting on the fact that ordinary buyers never read the official Gazette. When the yellow machines arrive at 5 a.m. to destroy your house, you are not fighting a family. You are not fighting the government. You are fighting the Gazette. A document you were never shown decided your fate before you saved your first naira. And I want to speak directly to the Nigerians in the diaspora. If you are watching this from London, from Houston, from Toronto, from Berlin, this chapter is your nightmare. You work 3 jobs. You drive Ubers in the snow. You do night shifts at the hospital. You send your hard-earned foreign exchange back home to build a foundation for your family. You trust a cousin. You trust an agent. You trust a famous family name. The distance you feel is exactly where this system earns the most money. Diaspora money enters at the top of the funnel, and at the gate, it is swallowed by this exact contradiction. You are funding a machine designed to take your money and deny you ownership. Why does this confusing, painful system still exist? Why hasn't the government simplified it? Because confusion is highly profitable. Money always leaves fingerprints. Let us follow it. When you buy land in Lagos, look at the names of the families selling it. The Elegushi family, the Oniru family, the Ojora family, the Olua family. These are the direct heirs of the white-cap chiefs. Their signatures move some of the most expensive real estate in Africa. But after you pay the family for the land, the extortion has only just begun. You pay the youth at the gate just to bring blocks onto your own land. You pay them a foundation fee when you start digging. You pay them a roofing fee when you reach the top. If you refuse to pay, they do not take you to court. They arrive with weapons. They beat your workers. They destroy your materials. And if you call the police will tell you it is a civil matter and refuse to intervene. The state allows the violence because the families control the grassroots. But the paper trail does not stop at the gate. To secure your land legally, you must obtain governor's consent. This is a signature from the state government validating your purchase from the family. And signatures in Lagos are not free. The buyer must pay massive assessment fees, capital gains taxes, stamp duties, and registration percentages to the state government just to get this consent. The system functions perfectly. The family extorts you at the gate. The state extracts from you at the registry. The buyer is forced to bleed money to both sides just to survive the contradiction. And the line between the families and the state is practically invisible. Look at the public record. In 2020, the Oniru kingdom crowned a new king, Gbolahan Lawal. What was his job before he ascended the throne? He was a serving commissioner in the Lagos state government, a state official 1 year, a royal landowner the next. I am not saying anything improper happened with his ascension, but ask the logical question. When the family and the state stand this close together, when the government and the royalty sit at the same table, who exactly is regulating whom? If you want to see how the absolute elite bypass this entire trap, look at the newest land in Lagos. Drive along Victoria Island and look toward the ocean. You will see Eko Atlantic City. This is 10 square kilometers of prime land pulled directly out of the Atlantic Ocean by massive dredges. The old families cannot claim it because their ancestors never walked on it. It did not exist 100 years ago. So who owns land that was born yesterday? The public corporate records show it was developed by South Energex Nigeria, a company tied to the powerful Chagori family, in a direct partnership with the Lagos state government. The newest part of Lagos was born global. It is priced in United States dollars. It is completely insulated from the chaos of onile. So the map of ownership in Lagos has 3 distinct layers. The old families claim it by custom. The governor claims it by law. The private developers claim it by contract. 3 landlords, 1 city. And when the state needs land for a new project, they do not seize Eko Atlantic. They do not seize Banana Island. They issue a notice of overriding public interest and they send the bulldozers to the working-class neighborhoods. They demolish the slums. They crush the middle-class estates. And months later, that exact same land carries a new high-wall fence and a new wealthy buyer. Your demolition is their real estate supply chain. I want to end by focusing on the pain, because the financial loss is only half the story. A demolition is not just the destruction of bricks and cement. It is a psychological weapon. It is a generational wipeout. When a father works for 30 years, builds a house for his family, and then watches a government bulldozer crush it in 20 minutes, something inside him breaks. He loses his dignity in front of his children. He is forced to pack his belongings into the rain and move back into a rented apartment. We have seen men suffer massive strokes and heart attacks right there in the rubble. The trauma destroys families, and it teaches a brutal lesson in power. When a man watches his life savings destroyed without consequence, he learns never to argue with power again. He lowers his voice. He warns his children not to speak up against the government. That is how a citizen quietly becomes a subject. They do not silence you with a new law. They silence you with an excavator. So, who owns Lagos? The evidence speaks for itself. The families own the history and the customs. The governor owns the 1978 law. The developers own the future contracts. And the buyer merely holds a receipt that can be cancelled at any time. Lagos is a megacity where the ground itself has shareholders, and the dividend is collected at every fence, every foundation, and every signature. To the widow whose house was destroyed, and to everyone holding a useless land receipt tonight, you did not fail because you were careless. You did not fail because you didn't work hard enough. You failed because the game was never yours to win. You were playing on a pitch where the referee privately owns the ground. But a massive legal question remains unanswered. If the colonizers' highest court said the soil belongs to the families, and the military's law says it belongs to the governor, whose signature is really underneath your house today? The system survives because nobody forces the answer. If this investigation helped you understand the painful reality of Nigerian real estate, do not keep it to yourself. Send this video to anyone saving money to buy land. Send it to your family in the diaspora. You might save them years of trauma. You might save them millions of naira. And you might protect them from the yellow machines. Tell us your experience in the comments. Let everyone scrolling past see how many Nigerians have been broken by this machine. And tell me one more thing. Which country are you watching from? Because I want to know how far this investigation is reaching. If you want Historic Capital to keep opening these files, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to become part of the investigation itself, consider joining the Historic Capital membership. Tonight's investigation began with a question from one of our members. The next investigation could begin with yours. You can propose the documents we should examine, the companies we should investigate, the transactions we should follow, and the questions nobody seems willing to answer. And if you want to support the research directly, you can also support Historic Capital through Buy Me a Coffee. Now, one last thing. You think you are buying a house in Abuja? Wait, Abuja keeps its own gazette, and the capital was built on the same page Lagos was built on. Land taken first, paperwork written after. What does that mean? That is the file we are opening next. Because if you think you understand who owns Lagos, you need to see what happened when Nigeria built a new capital. I am opening that file next. Subscribe so you are holding the document before the machines are. The truth is in the transactions. Follow the money. You are watching Historic Capital. Power is not given. Power is taken.